I've never wanted to get involved in politics, but recently it's really all I'm seeing, and it's bothering me a lot. I'm going to be honest, because I'm a transparent person. I'm starting to have a real dislike for the USA, and that is me being absolutely honest. Everything America stands for, as it is today, I personally am against. And I'm not talking about the American people. I'm just talking about American politics, the government, um, and their agendas. Now, by extension, that will also include many Americans as well, because I'm seeing people in the comment section of videos relating to certain topics, and I'm like, they are morons. They really are morons. And it's like, I don't like talking like that down to people. But America is a very racist country. I'm seeing it now with the way you talk about the immigrants. I mean, there's a lot of racists in the UK as well because they don't like immigrants either. Seems to be rife with people who have privilege. And again, that stands against everything they stand for. Everybody should be treated like even. It shouldn't be a case of what privilege you have, where you're born, what your financial situation is. We're all humans. And I think that just seems to get lost on people. Americans, for the most part, they're all about domination, posturing. We're the big one. You're going to be alone very soon, and that's what I'm witnessing. And I think it'll happen quite rapid if Trump behaves in the way that I anticipate that he will. America will be a very isolated nation. They're going to have no friends. And when a country says we're the best in the world and no one else matters, do you think you deserve to have friends? That's what's happening. I'm really hoping the UK stands shoulder to shoulder with Europe. I hope they do. I hope Europe, hope UK strengthens its connection to Europe, because we have far more in common at this point with the European nations than we do with the USA. So video come up, Danish politician, and I was like all for it. I was like, yeah, you tell him, mate. And I started reading some of the comments, and this is where you realise the Americans, well, not every American again. I think it's the uneducated, to be totally honest. All they think about is trying to conquer things, have an empire. USA as a nation is very young. Other nations have already had their empires. Didn't work out too well for them, did it? I think it was back in the 90s. The UK gave back, I think it was Hong Kong to China. I don't know if they did something in India as well, but I think the fact that the UK has been rolling back, I think that's really important. But again, it's up to nations. I think at that point, it's up to nations to decide who they want to be a part of. If they want to maintain having that connection to the Commonwealth or not. But it's like America. Like, I just feel like America's backwards in time. That's how I see it. It's like where you have Christopher Columbus and all sorts of things. Go and explore the world. America's like, it's almost like America just wants to do that. We're going to try and explore the world more now. We're going to start taking things because we're going to become like pirates. What I see personally, and I think it's quite strange to think that if America starts to try to occupy other countries, that will push other nations closer together, and it will allow ones seen as adversaries to become potential allies. That's what I think. It's a strange statement to make, but this situation with Greenland specifically, I think, is a real touchy subject. I think it's the one that's going to be riskiest most to Trump. The Canada situation, they can obviously do diplomacy, and maybe it makes sense to merge countries. It seems surreal at this point, but you just never know. You know, but the Greenland one, I think, is a no go. Because even if America tries to take it by force, one would assume that because Denmark is part of NATO, of course America is, but America's the aggressor. So one would assume that all of NATO has to come together to defend against America. One would expect. Now, you see Americans, and they keep waffling on about the amount of money America spends towards NATO. It's more. Maybe they are the biggest independent contributor, but the United States as a whole is like a continent of America. So USA is big, so it has a bigger economy. But Europe is still an economy. So when Trump, for instance, Trump is very good at pointing out specific countries to try to seem weak. But if you look at the landmass of somewhere like France, for instance, France's landmass is nothing like the landmass of the USA, is it? But America is a continent still. So when he tries to make it look like countries are not paying enough, we're paying this country's only paying that. Well, let's look. I don't know the numbers. I'm not going to go into it because I don't know the numbers. I'm not going to talk facts like that. But what he's doing is picking out specific countries, whereas America's a continent. So how much is America contributing and how much is the whole of Europe contributing? Because that's the equivalent. It's not how much is this little country paying. It's like, no, on a landmass, the Europe is the equivalent of America. So how much is Europe contributing towards it compared to thing? And I think it's naive to think that every other military is inferior to the USA. You know, UK is a small island, a small land mass, if you like. But you know, I mean, our military is incredibly powerful, and of course, other countries also have nuclear weapons, and that's where it just gets a bit dangerous. You know, rather than build friendships and have common goals, America just seems to be going wayward like crazy, and it's like this is not a common friendship. It's not. Like I say, everything that America's standing for right now is everything I'm against. Personally, I think women should have autonomy over their bodies. Whether anybody agrees with a decision they make in terms of like whether someone should keep a child or not, it's not for other people to interfere with. It's none of their business. It's up to women. You don't know the reason as to why someone would. It's their mental health. Women have to risk their life to have a pregnancy. So why should you order someone to go through such a painful experience, which can cause severe mental illnesses when you get postnatal depression? You don't know if someone's suffered some sort of something to have this child against their will, and you don't know what it's doing to their body throughout pregnancy. And sometimes pregnancies can go wrong, especially at the final moments, and they can lose their lives. So I think anyone to sort of think they have a moral high ground over such a personal experience, I think, is disgusting. So, you know, that's just one thing. And I think America just seems to regress constantly on that topic. And I think it's a rather big topic. I think the immigration situation in America right now, with the fact that they're just trying to scoop up people now like they mean nothing. They call it like they treat them like they're aliens. And then people cheering. And even if I think it's the sheriffs or saying, I saw this video and they were like laughing and stuff. And I thought, these are human beings you're talking about. You racist bastards. I'll be honest with you, I'm starting to absolutely feel disgusted towards America right now, to the point where that's all I see: race and indiscrimination. It's not the land of the free; it's the land of the corrupt. It's a pariah in the world, and I think that's what's going to happen. So I absolutely, right now, I wouldn't even want to get on a plane and travel to America right now. So where Americans think everybody's like really wants to get there and replace them and live a life. No, I don't want to be there at all, mate. I hate it right now. No, the values are far stronger in Europe. There's a friendship in Europe. You know, unless you travel to Europe, you would have no idea. So the Americans got this boosted ego and they haven't even travelled outside their country. I've been to America. Yeah, I've been to America. I liked it in pockets. Some of the people are a bit weird. It's huge egos. Very loud. So there's like positives and negatives, but I don't want to go too far. But let's listen to this politician because I'm all where he is right now. I'm all where he is. I'm not going to keep talking about America because I'm just getting pissed off too much. And this is only the early stages of Trump's presidency. But again, I'm not talking about just Trump because you saw it before. Trump was a pain in the arse. Then Biden came in. And then you look at Biden and he just seemed to have no clue at all. It was just ridiculous. It's like you're watching this guy. It didn't seem like he ever made decisions. It seemed like people above him was influencing decisions. And he was a puppet. Then you get Trump coming, he's like a train wreck again. But then you think, I can't see it improving after. There's said to be another puppet in place. Because politics is similar around the world. But what you have to realise is, any time there's substantial change in the world, it gives an opportunity for others to fill the void. And personally, I think if America starts trying to be a tyrant and starts trying to take over countries, much like we'd consider maybe Russia, you know, this is the thing. It's like they're no different. They just try to the propaganda through the media tries to portray it like this is a just decision. It's not a just decision. None of that is just. That's just being a tyrant. They're trying to be Hitler because he wants to be a martyr. That's all it is. It's boosted egos. Who's he surround himself around? Musk and things. Well, these don't look like the most kind people, do they? They're all money people. They're all power, dominance. And I think what we saw with this Red Note app, I haven't been on it, but I saw the footage. People are whether it's propaganda, who knows? Because that can happen, and people can be convinced if it's manipulated well enough. But effectively, the Chinese people are coming across as very kind. And so what could happen is America could decide to be a tyrant, and then the Chinese could swoop in and start to gain trade deals with other nations, especially Europe, and they could start becoming a supporter of that. And then all of us, you would argue these nations wouldn't want to get involved in a war, but if it's to their benefit, then maybe they will posture above. All of a sudden, you've got the world stands up against America, and it's just crazy that America could have been like the leader of a group where you've got common goals though, and your values align. But instead, they just distance themselves and saying, we're not being part of this, we're not being part of that. So they don't want to be part of climate change. They don't want to be part of the World Health Organization. So if there's a pandemic and things, America's on its own because they haven't invested in it. So it's like they're making them a pariah in the world now. And I'm seeing it myself, and it's making me go, I don't even want to look over there now. I just want to look at my home now. I trust Europe. We have similar values. We have different cultures, we have different languages, but we have similar values on life itself. America's regressing, and right now it doesn't seem like anything can save it. Biggest problem is America influences a lot of the world, but I'm hoping the UK stands strong against this shit because I don't believe in it at all. So let's listen to a Danish politician about Greenland.
President Trump, listen very carefully. Greenland has been part of the Danish kingdom for 800 years. It's an integrated part of our country. It is not for sale. Let me put it in words you might understand. Mr. Trump, f*** off.
If the translation was correct, the term you used is not allowed in this house, and there will be consequences to the message you have used. It is not okay in this house of democracy. Thank you. Regardless of what we think of Mr. Trump, it is not possible to use such language.
Dear President Trump.
I love that. What we think of Mr. Trump. I don't think Europe likes Trump. I don't think so. I've seen another video where this very articulated lady was in a European conference thing, and she wasn't too fond of him either. I don't care who the president is because I just think it's one dipshit after another. It's the huge impact it has around the world, and there's a huge ego that says everything we do is great. No one else matters. The consequences are irrelevant. And from what I'm seeing is he's going to destroy his own country anyway. You look at I don't know if he's going to start. I think he's going to start tapping into oil around Alaska. Alaska's a beautiful place. I don't know. This guy's just crazy. He just wants money. We'll see how it all plays out over the next 4 years, but I personally don't see it being a great 4 years for the USA at this rate. As an American, approve of the language used. That's more like it. More courage than everyone in Congress. If we want it, we take it. Typical Pratt. Doesn't work like that, bro. Greenland has been part of Denmark longer than the US have existed, laugh my ass off. I'm only doing the top comments here because I can't be bothered. Some of them tread out into like a spiral of 400 replies. I'm not going to start going through that. We'll just do the top one where the first person spoke because I think that's who has the most relevance. They had the confidence to say something first, then people reacted to. I'd rather listen to the person who had the initial opinion because there's enough of them. Unless I run out and then I'll go through the tiers. A poll says Greenland wants to be part of the USA. And someone said, which poll? Again, Americans talk shit. Stop the money to Denmark, billions in foreign aid. Oh, so you're just going to try and like make them poor so you can just take it. Okay. Most people in Greenland are telling the same to Denmark. I mean, I don't know the situation with that. I just don't like the fact that America is this tyrant saying we're taking this land, this land, this land. Regardless of what we think, it sounded like I agree, but you can't say that. The thing about the way sometimes Europeans talk, though, they can say we in the sense that they may refer that to the person who spoke in the first place. It might not mean they agree. No one on Greenland like Denmark too. I will look at that. What makes you think they like America? You're right. We aren't buying it. We're taking it. One thing I will say about that. how good have America been at conquering nations to date? They're not very good. They're not very good at all. They're not. I think their success rate is very low, and they suffer a lot of attrition. When I say attrition, that's actual people's lives. That's the difference. I can correlate that and say every life is valuable, and other people they just don't give a shit. You know, if you say the military is going to go in there and we're going to lose some people, but we're going to take it. Each person that dies is a human being who deserves to live a fulfilling life, not be a puppet or pawn for government suppression. That's all it is. So when you join the army and you say, "I'm going to stand up for my country," you may have the best intentions, and I get it. But in the end, you've got to look at who controls your country. What decisions do they make? Do you trust them? It no longer becomes about I'm defending my country. It's I'm a pawn for this lunatic, and they don't care about the value of your life. That like I couldn't do that, and that's not through fear or weakness. It's I'm not doing it for that person at all. You know, it's too much corruption. And yeah, America doesn't really win wars. They're unable to conquer anywhere. So I don't know why people just naturally think that when America sets its eyes on something, it wins. It doesn't. It suffers a lot of attrition, and the corruption in America is such that a lot of their money goes towards defense anyway. So guess what? When they lose their ammo and weapons, guess what? They can buy more, and that's how the economy works in America anyway. Um, it's all about defense spending and stuff. So effectively, it's like put American taxpayers into corrupt scenarios. You know, so let's say some congressperson or someone linked to some congressperson has an investment in a defense contract. This is how it all comes to be. There's someone that's profiting every time something's bought within the ammo, or whether it's arms, anything with the arms race. So when America goes to war, that person starts pocketing because there's funding going into it. So all of a sudden, we need to start funding towards this because we're going to go to war or something like that. That's a lot of the time why these wars start, because the money men. There's someone to gain. The taxpayer pays in. The money goes to this place, this place, this place. They would rather it go to someone who's going to benefit, who they know personally, who will support their campaign to become president or a congressperson. And they don't care about the everyday person who could do with a cheaper healthcare or some food stamps or some way just to help their daily life. You know, have like a rent cap. They don't care about none of this. That's irrelevant. They only care about the elites. The elites care about the elites, and you're going to fund it. That's all that is. And yet they'll say we're going to go to war, and you go, yeah. It's like, yeah, who's funding that? You just got to have your brain switched on for a little bit. They always have tough words to America tighten the reins. The tune changes. When has there been history of anyone being scared of America? Like, being honest, when has anyone ever been scared of the USA? I don't think that's happened. I don't think anyone gives a shit, to be totally honest. If you look at the I'm not full on with this shit. If you look at the situation in Israel, America turns up with destroyers in the naval destroyers, and you got people in Yemen, I think it was, were shooting rockets at them and drones and stuff. They didn't give a shit. They didn't back down. You don't see places like Iran give a shit about America. They were just they were doing stuff down the I don't know is it the Suez Canal? I can't remember. I don't know the exact names of all these places. But you didn't see Iran give a shit about that. America's patrolling the waterways. They still started taking ships and confiscating them. They tried to take Vietnam. Look what happened there. I don't see countries give a shit about USA. I really don't. USA is strong and powerful, but nations know they have allies, and they know their regions better than anyone else. The Americans just think they're this tough bastards, and it's like they're just out of touch of reality. They really are. Maybe we can get Denmark, and then we can have the Greenland by default. USA are not in any time scale, on any timeline in the history of the planet, forward now for the next million years, would the USA ever be able to conquer Europe? They could not conquer. That is ridiculous. If you actually look at Europe, you realise how actually the landscape is absolutely crazy. There's so many mountains and things. It's like crazy. You wouldn't be able to. And this is the way where people just don't think. They think that everything, the landmass is flat, and we'll put tanks there. We'll put this here, and it'll all be easy. It's never that easy, is it? Because the terrain is constantly varying, and you don't know the local area more than the locals, and people do band together. The USA isn't as strong as everyone thinks they are. You just heard recently they said trillions of dollars in debt. And if you don't think for a moment that other nations would absolutely love to go up against America, you've got nothing coming. So if America wanted to be a dominant force and started to attack its own friends, I think the other neighbours would watch because they'd like to see how that plays out a little bit. And I don't think people would really hesitate to attack a weakened America. This is the problem. I'm not a warmongering person. I don't like any war and all this shit. But if you just look at it tactically, it just makes sense to me that if someone was to attack a nation, even one of the others, it doesn't even have to be China and Russia all the time, but someone else may see an opportunity to attack a weakened America. And if America's fighting so much in another land, especially all the way across the Atlantic, let's say that ever happened, which is a bit surreal, they leave themselves weak on their homeland. So China or Russia could easily start attacking America in their own land, which hasn't really happened to Americans. They're not used to that. They're used to fighting wars afar. So it doesn't seem real to them. It feels like a movie. They all think they're Rambo. It's mad. This isn't all American people, but there's a lot of them, isn't there? Dude, America is so strong. Sell it or we take it. Yeah, someone said something like me, like Vietnam or Afghanistan. I've got to read the comment chain on this. Vietnam defeated them. Every time they've tried, they failed. Exactly. I think, US won in Vietnam. If I recall, they didn't fare too well in Somalia either. And losing an entire continent worth of allies. That's what I'm talking about. I don't think Trump thinks that far ahead. I think he just seems to think everyone falls in line. The big one is going to be the UK. Only because the UK is the one that has most in common with the US and a very strong ally. And I think if he starts going down this warmongering thing, I really hope to God the UK sides with Europe. Did you win any war strong for what? You're not taking anything. Talks of delusional Trump support. It will be interesting watching the US NATO troops defend Greenland from the US invaders. Why don't you try and take China if you're so strong? Oh, yeah, that wouldn't happen. And that's the trouble. It's not easy to take countries. When I say it's not easy for the USA wouldn't be able to take China, but then China wouldn't be able to take the USA. This is the thing. It's not easy to overtake nations, and nations tend to have allies. So even if you said, I'm going to go in and take this one, you don't know who their neighbors are and who they're affiliated with. In the same way with Syria, they were affiliated with Russia. And of course, Russia has their own agenda, but still, America couldn't touch certain parts of Syria because the issue is if they had an altercation with Russia, now they could end up going to war with Russia. They can't afford a war with Russia. You've got this same problem here. Trump just needs to calm his ass down and stop being a tyrant. It all stems from his ego. He won't say that to his face. Oh, I think he would. I think so. I don't think everyone's as scared of America as they think they are. I mean, I would say it to someone's face. I don't give a fuck. Don't look like someone who gives a shit. Americans just seem to think they're this badass dude, so everyone's scared to speak up. If I was scared to speak up, I wouldn't do a video, post it online, and leave it for the world to see. My views on my own. I don't give a shit. The people of Greenland want to be part of America, really? Someone said, no, they don't. It is President Trump. Yeah, I feel like this statement would turn this into a personal challenge for Trump. Well, there'd be a personal challenge for Trump because Trump needs to realize he can't win every battle. He's not as strong as he thinks he is. You won't like Trump's response. Everyone thinks they're so fucking tough. Trump won't like his response as well. Until you're in the room with him, who gives a shit? God damn. I have no interest. Like, if you never know who comes in the spotlight in the future. I wouldn't want to be around any of these tyrants. And I don't play nice. So I wouldn't even be in a room with this dickhead. I've no interest in meeting Trump in my lifetime or shaking his hand or any of that shit. That is not going to happen. Got no respect at all for that guy. I do see the benefits of him though, so I'm not like so blasé about things. He's someone that tests the shit out of everything, but sometimes you need some substantial change because the American democracy wasn't a democracy anyway. You never had the freedoms you think you did. And he is causing some shit to surface, but it's going to cause a lot of conversations. And you could argue that in the future, through those conversations, it can create substantial change So I think that's what Trump's all about. I think he's here to mess shit up on purpose. But there's going to be a lot of people pissed off along the way. And it's really just start thinking for yourself and not just pick a lane or pick a person. It's not just saying I'm attached to Trump and everything he says after that you have to just agree with because you're a Trump supporter. Think for yourself. You can like Trump for some part of this. You can say, I like what he's doing here. I don't really like what he said there. That policy's crazy. But, I see some of the things he's doing that I think are good and I think that can benefit us in the long term. But there's a lot of things that I find quite alarming. And they start thinking for yourself. Is it really hard to have an original thought and say, this isn't right, but this is fine. This isn't right. I can see the benefits of that. You've got to learn to think for yourself. You can't just be an idiot that just copies someone and mirrors them because it makes you feel like you're part of something bigger and it gives you some substance in your life. That just makes you an idiot. That's the reality of that shit. As an American, I prove that language. I will translate correctly, I promise. So I'm going to lose it if I keep talking about America. So I'm going to avoid America from now on. I've got a book coming out later in the year, and it's Society and Freedom. It was to do with like politics to an extent, but how our world is. Because I'm someone that feels we should be able to be free to traverse, which is why it bothers me a lot. These borders and things just drive me nuts. It's not for someone to stake a claim on this land and say you can't travel here, you can't see this part of the world. Effectively, we are not free to see the beauty of the world. We can only see fragments of it that we're allowed to see based on where we were born and the privilege extended to us. That bothers me a lot. Everybody should have the right to see the entirety of the world. And anyone that says otherwise is an absolute idiot. There you go. But yeah, I'm not going to keep talking about America anymore because America's getting further and further from my own personal values. I don't like it. There you go. I said it. So let's leave it. Last guy. Let's let this guy have the last word.
Trump, listen very carefully. Greenland has been part of the Danish kingdom for 800 years. It's an integrated part of our country. It is not for sale. Let me put it in words you might understand. Mr. Trump, f*** off.
If the translation was correct, the term you used is not allowed in this house, and there will be consequences to the message you have used. It is not okay in this house of democracy. Thank you. Regardless of what we think of Mr. Trump, it is not possible to use such language.
Dear
I like both parts of that video. I like that he's speaking up, he's saying what he wants to say. But I do like the fact that he was held accountable because in Europe, without democracy, and that extends to all the nations within Europe, there's accountability, but it's also about being respectful. So say what you've got to say, but do it in a respectful manner that's articulated. Do not reduce it to sort of warfare in a room where everybody's just shouting and swearing, there's no respect for each other. And the problem is, when you look at Trump, that's the shit he would create, a shitstorm in this system. We see it in some other countries where they actually fight each other. I don't know if it's Turkey. There's a country where they go absolutely mental. It's quite wild. I don't know if it's Turkey. I don't know what country it is. But yeah, I gotta get away from America now because this is driving me nuts.